President Trump is laying out the stakes for America, framing the mayoral win of Zohran Mamdani in New York City as the battle between communism and common sense.
I'm so torn because I would like to see the new mayor do well because I love New York. I really love New York. For 1,000 years, communism has not worked. Communism or the concept of communism has not worked. I tend to doubt it's going to work this time.
Did you see his victory speech?
No, it's literally never worked. Yeah, I thought it was a very angry speech, certainly angry toward me, and I think he should be very nice to me. You know, I'm the one that sort of has to approve a lot of things coming to him, so he's off to a bad start.
Zohran's victory exposing the power struggle in the Democratic Party between the moderates and the far left. The center-left think tank Third Way releasing this memo urging lawmakers to resist the pressure to align with Mamdani's radical policies. And Whoopi Goldberg is telling old guard Democrats, watch out.
Your party's not your boss, your constituents are your boss. And so when the constituents say, get up, get the job done, we mean what we say, or don't come back. The Democrats have a lot of good candidates.
Yeah.
The party has to get out of the way and let them shine.
You know, Dana, interestingly, Politico Playbook today said there's one question Mamdani won't answer, and it is, should Chuck Schumer have a challenger? It's funny, his staff intervened immediately when Politico asked the question, and then he said, I'm focused on this transition. So AOC, insurgency.
So if you read even Mark Halperin's piece today, he talks about how emboldened Mamdani was when he gave his speech. We had Harold Ford Jr. the night on the election saying, well, it'll be interesting to see if he comes out and he's very unified. There was none of that. He feels emboldened. He has ideas that in his 34-year-old life, where he has only ever been a taxpayer-funded employee, thinks that he can run New York City. Like, I don't even think I could run the MTA, and he thinks that he can do this. And he's so arrogant about it. He reminds me of Greta Thunberg through and through. I don't know whether to wish him the best, to hope for the city, or to hope that it fails. But I do know this: that the challenge for the GOP is to try to connect Zohran's ideas and policies that he's at least providing, and he's out there talking to young people. Where is everybody else? And it's good to say Marxism is bad, but we are a long way from when we actually got all educated about the Cold War. And young people today, they don't have the fear of socialism that was implanted in us and that we learned about based on the experiences that every other place in the world that has tried socialism has lived under. And so that is a job that the Republicans have to do, media has to do, if you want to do that. Now, connecting his policies to the outcomes we know that are coming, that's going to be very important. We'll have to wait and see how it goes.
No doubt about it. You know, Jessica, when I look at this, in Virginia, you have a candidate who fantasized about murdering children in a text, who is now going to be the Attorney General of Virginia. In New York City, you have a communist about to take over. In Seattle, you have, it's not determined yet, but you do have a socialist chomping at the heels of an incumbent Democratic mayor. And then Pelosi, who's just stepped down in Congress, one of the people running to take her place is AOC's former chief of staff. You have an insurgency of socialists/communists, and how are you going to quell it?
I'm not going for it. It's just not the narrative of what election night was. We'll see what happens in Seattle. Jay Jones was pulled over the finish line because Abigail Spanberger won by an amount that we haven't seen since JFK was president. The Republicans ran a terrible candidate who couldn't even get Donald Trump to endorse her or spend time with her, and that's what ends up happening. Also, voters have seen how Donald Trump has behaved since he came down that golden escalator. They want to win. They saw Jay Jones as someone who said, I am ashamed. They saw that Todd Gilbert, who he sent those text messages about, accepted his apology. And what's really interesting is the woman who leaked the text messages, who was running for her seat, she's a Virginia delegate, she lost her race, but Jay Jones won. This was a complete repudiation of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And if you want to pick and choose which candidates you focus on, that's your business. But Democrats are running as a big tent party. And AOC said that. She was interviewed on election night, and she said, no one is saying that Mamdani should run in Virginia, and no one should say that Spanberger should be running in New York City. We're accepting of all of this, and it is the way that we will not only take the majority back, in the
A quick
midterms.
check. I mean, you say it was a repudiation of Trump, but the last time a presidential candidate that's Republican won in Virginia 20 years ago, New Jersey 35 years ago, New York City, it's been 20 years since a Republican won.
Right,
so you
but
wanted
his
blue
policies,
states. That's great.
Right, but it's really interesting actually because the amount that Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger won by is directly proportionate to how unpopular Donald Trump is in those states. I'm just saying, if we all want to win, right? I want my team to win. I'm wearing my colors. You want your team to win. Just pay attention to what happened. The talking points are not going to get you over the
Jesse,
finish line.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.